Hey, what is up? It is I, Ronald, aka the worst Splatbrella main. And today I have a very unique topic. Well, I guess you could say unique because I talked about this a couple months ago. That being free downloadable content, or DLC for short. In that video, I basically explained how the free DLC practice Nintendo has been doing has been absolute garbage, with games such as Mario Tennis Aces, Animal Crossing New Horizons, or really any other Nintendo sports game that's been getting this DLC practice. That's right, I'm looking at you. Oh my goodness, Nintendo, why? You fumbled the bag with that game! Now of course, while that video was me critiquing Nintendo overall, I'm surprised that the comment section was pretty civil and people were making up good points. And to be honest, I like seeing that because it's always good to have a conversation about different topics while looking at both sides. And being civil because, haha, that is pretty hard to do nowadays, especially on social media. And a common thing I've been seeing from you guys in the comments is the fact that Nintendo can do the free DLC practice correctly. It's the fact that, well, they can't do it correctly. However, I did bring up a point in the video that there is a game series that can do it correctly and it works every single time. You want to take a guess on what it is? I'll give you 5 seconds, but I will give you a hint. It's related to that thing over there. Alright, it's Splatoon. Now we all know what Splatoon is. It's literally Mario Sunshine but with guns, as well as having likable characters and a pretty nice theme if I do say so myself. Like, man, I look so dripped out! And with the recent release of Splatoon 3, I want to give a different viewpoint of the game itself. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we already know that Splatoon is a pretty good game series, as I mentioned, very good gameplay, likable characters, and a pretty cool theme. But what I never hear people talk about is how the free DLC is done with this series. In a good way, by the way, because we're not talking about adding golf a few months later, even though it's in the base game. Like, what? I do find it ironic that Nintendo is doing the free DLC practice in a weird way with these past games. Not as good, but with Splatoon, it was the first game in the series to do it correctly. And the reason for this is because Splatoon was the first ever first-party Nintendo game to focus on online multiplayer. What do I mean by that? Well, think of it as like an online MMO where you can play with your friends, do PvP battles, have clans, and even do different events. And because of Splatoon being an online multiplayer game, you need to have a lot of online content prepared. This can include new weapons, gear, or even new maps. Now you could make the argument, but Ronald, the other games that get free DLC does also get free content like new maps, characters, or other stuff. How does Splatoon provide free DLC better than any other Nintendo game? Here's my counter argument to that. Day 1 content. You see, when you buy a brand new game day 1, there should be a good amount of content for you to play with. And recently Nintendo has been kinda dropping the ball with the past Mario sports games as well as other Nintendo games. For example, Mario Strikers Battle League having only 10 characters in one field. And no, I'm not counting future DLC because those characters should have also been in the base game since they're in the last game in day 1. Or how about this? Nintendo Switch Sports having golf as free DLC even though it was in the first game as base content. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hate on golf, but really? Golf being free DLC in a sports game? I mean, at that point, they should have just made DLC from Wii Sports Resorts and called it a day. That would have been a lot better. Anyways, the Splatoon series has done free DLC perfectly because there's actually stuff to do day 1. You have a banger story mode, cool gear to unlock, new weapons to try out, new stages, and more stuff. That's a lot of stuff to do day 1, and guess what? You earn it by playing the game. You don't have to sit like a waiting duck just to get more content since you're able to just play all the new stuff and have fun with it. With all this content you have an imaginary bubble, it makes you get excited for even more content to come out. And I'm only saying all this because you could make the argument, what? You hate free DLC? What is wrong with you? Less content is less for the game and less gameplay value. And you're right, if there's not a lot of content, then there is less gameplay value. But here's the thing, If the game comes out day one and there's not really a lot of content, then what value is there either way? If a game like Splatoon has a lot of content day one, then there is a lot of value because there's actually stuff to do and unlock and it gets you more excited for future content. I've already mentioned this, but since Splatoon is a multiplayer focused game, there's already an expectation of what should be coming out day one. When you have games like Nintendo Switch Sports or Mario Strikers Battle League, the free DLC doesn't work as well because their past games did the whole DLC better. Because there was no DLC, you unlocked everything day one and there's value within them. Now I could think of two main reasons on why Nintendo likes doing this free DLC method. One, they want to keep the player numbers high. Two, they just want to hold back content and, well, I guess maybe have more development time with them. The first argument could make sense, but here's the thing. First impressions are very important for video games or even any type of media. If your first experience of playing a game was, wow, this game is very bare bones, I want to sell it and not buy it again, then you just lost a player. And for personal experience, I've talked to people that played Mario Strikers Battle League or even any Nintendo game that did the whole free DLC method, and they just sold the game a week later and never touched it again. You want your game to have content because you want your player base to stay so you can build a foundation and get more players to know about it. If you don't have a foundation, then what player base is there to build? And with the argument of the free DLC needing more development time, well, then at that point, just delay the game. Look, I know game development has a lot of time constraints and hurdles, but at the same time though, just get around it. And also the fact that if your past game has had better features compared to their later games, then what's going on in the development studio? There could be many other reasons on why Nintendo is doing this free DLC method, but those are my main points I want to make about them. What I want everybody to take away from this video is that free DLC is not automatically a bad thing. Sure, I've criticized it and I gave many reasons on why that's the case, but Splatoon has shown that it can be done correctly. Especially with me 100%ing the main story mode recently and enjoying the new weapons, it just gets me excited for more future content because there's a lot to do right now. Also, with this being my third Splatoon game and compared to the other ones, it's good as always, so I highly recommend it. But what do you guys think about the Splatoon series handling free DLC or even free DLC in general? Are you for it, against it, or in between? Feel free to let me know down in the comments. Now if you excuse me, I gotta work on my umbrella skills.